You scroll through hundreds of job descriptions, but they all sound the same. You spend so much time on every application, but it doesn't seem to matter. You send off application after application, but never hear back. You thought the interview went so well, but it's a no. You jump through all the hoops. The news keeps saying how there are all these employers that are struggling to find people to hire. So why does finding a great job have to be so hard? It doesn't seem very logical or fair. It's not. The system is broken. It's not your fault. The process most people go through to get a job is awful. But here's the good news. The system isn't very smart. In fact, it's downright dumb. It can be beaten. How? Most prospective employers and employees today are using the same old tired strategies that have been around forever. It's like professional camouflage. Everybody just blends into the crowd. But you don't have to be that way anymore. You can get traction. You can stand out from the crowd to unleash your God-given potential, to help a world in need, to do work that matters, to earn what you and your family deserve. You can do this. You're meant to do this. There are bright things on the horizon for you. This is the way. Welcome to the workshop. Get hired fast without settling, getting ignored, or losing hope, so that you, my friends, can do work that matters and earn what you and your family deserve. My name is Eric Woodard. I'm a high-performance leadership and career coach based out of Washington, D.C. And if you're joining us for this workshop today, I just want to honor you for your valuable time. We got a whole big crowd of people who are here live. If you would, put in the chat, if you're here live, put in the chat where you're zooming in from and how long you've been on the job search. And if you're watching the replay of this video, well, you're not quite as cool as the people who are here live, but you're also pretty cool. So put in the chat, if you would, where you're from and how long you've been on the job search, and we're going to get started right now. So look, folks, a lot of times, being on a job search can feel a lot like pounding sand. Isn't that right, Stacy in Sacramento, and Segundo in LA, and Katrina in California, and I see you there, Oscar in California. Also, sometimes it can feel like waiting on a glacier, Kristen in Denver, and Kimberly in Colorado. Sometimes it can feel like being adrift at sea, Christian in Jacksonville, and Christy in San Francisco. I see there Peter in Macedonia. Sometimes it can be like wandering through the desert, Gerald in Minnesota, and Douglas. A lot of Californians in the house. I see there Irma in San Diego. Sometimes it could be like going into the arena, Georgette in Dallas, and Elena in Austin. We got some Texans in the house. Walt in Denver. Sometimes it can feel like looking into an abyss, AJ in Boston and Andrew in Atlanta. So look, who is this for? Tim, I see you there in South Bay. If you are unsure about the direction you want your career to go, if you're struggling to find ways to describe what you do there, Martin in San Jose, if you're uncertain if your resume is any good, if you're wrestling with how to follow up after you apply, if you're tired of applying and hearing nothing back there, Atuar in the San Francisco, if you're doing interviews that seem to be so great and they're really enthusiastic, and then you get a big one of those no's. I know that some of you have experienced that. If you're just trapped in a job you hate, and most of all, folks, if you're losing hope, you are in the right place. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to get some business taken care of today. If you are somebody who's just super casual about your career, not willing to really do much work, if you're reluctant to take responsibility for the results you've been getting, if you're just interested in finding a job to make money, if you're stuck in your ways and kind of closed-minded, if you know a lot of things, right? If you know a lot of things about the reasons you're not getting a job, if you're unwilling to be authentic, this may not be a great place for you. So my commitment to you there, hey, Zainab in the Bay Area, in the SF, we got all these people from the Bay Area. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about how to get hired fast without settling, getting ignored, or losing hope. I'm going to offer you 4 strategies and 9 tactics that you can use to elevate your career job search today so that you can do work that matters and earn what you and your family deserve. Now, I want to make a commitment to you on this workshop. Most of this workshop today is just going to be a sales pitch. That's pretty much why we're here. So no, I'm just kidding. Of course, it's not going to be a big, long sales pitch. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to try to sell you anything on this workshop today, because when I work with people, sort of like the awesomeness of possibility for them is self-apparent. And that's why people sign up with me. This whole workshop is just going to be awesome stuff for you to get your job search handled. All right. So here's our agenda today. First of all, I'm going to just offer a little bit about who I am, just a tiny, tiny bit, right? I'm going to give you 4 strategies, 9 tactics to elevate your job search. I'm going to invite you to have a call with me if that's something you're interested in. And we're going to have time for questions. So let me just get my thing working here. All right, it's working. All right, so can we get started, Irma? That's right. Let's get started. Who is this guy and why does he think he can help me find a job? Okay, well, look, I didn't grow up in the States. Those of you who also didn't grow up in the States, I grew up overseas. I came to the States when I was about 17 to attend college. I wound up transferring colleges 7 times, right? Had a really hard time, really wasn't thinking about career stuff much at all. I wound up, this is me in the Midwest, wondering why it's so damn cold, right? But I applied to a bunch of schools and was just kind of just kind of lost. I wound up as a scuba instructor on Guam. And for those of you who don't know where Guam is, a little tiny island in the Pacific, right? And it was great. Guam was great. I spent about 10,000 hours underwater with the fish and the sun, and it was amazing. And after a while, even though I was having a lot of fun, I was like, my brain's getting a little waterlogged here. I got to do something a little bit more, I don't know, just more. So I figured, what would that be? So I said, I ought to get a job at the White House. So I took out a piece of paper and wrote the world's worst cover letter and sent that in. And I figured, well, I'm never hearing from those bastards, right? But about a month later, I was riding my bicycle past the Guam post office, and a guy came out and he says, Eric, you got this letter on White House stationery. So I opened it up and it was an internship application. And I didn't know what an internship was, but I was really good at filling out applications because I transferred so many times. So I filled that sucker out, sent it in. Like, I'm never hearing back from those guys. But that got me thinking. I applied to some grad schools and I got into GW. So I landed in DC with like a backpack and like a big bushy haircut, was dumpster diving for furniture. And I bought a pair of running shoes and was out on the National Mall and ran past the White House. And I thought, those White House bastards, they never even bothered to let me know about that internship thing. What's up with that? So I found a payphone. I put in a quarter and I got him on the phone. I said, hey, you. I don't know if I call them bastards, but I said, hey, White House people, what about that internship thing? And they're like, is this Eric from Guam? I'm like, yeah, but I'm in DC now. They're like, man, we've been trying to get in touch with you. You're supposed to start in the First Lady's office on Monday. So I got a haircut, I bought a suit, and I showed up. And I don't know your politics on this call. I know we're in a presidential election season, but this is going to tell you how old I am. This is back during the Clinton administration, and I wound up interning for Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was a great boss, right? I wound up getting hired on her staff in Hillary land. Please forgive me if my politics aren't the same as yours. Forgive me, but keep listening because there's going to be cool job stuff here. But anyhow, she was a great boss. And all through that time, so I was with her during the rest of the Clinton administration. I followed her to the Senate. I wound up following her to the State Department where I did UNESCO stuff. And then eventually I left Hillary land and wound up as director of fellowships and internships at the Smithsonian Institution. And all through this time, both figuring out my own career and helping people at all sorts of different levels figure out their career, I saw the same movie over and over again where so many people struggle with job stuff. And there's nothing about this system that's very linear, logical, fair, none of it. And so now I coach, I speak and I coach, and it's awesome. And I'm just like, the thing that motivates me is helping people beat this crummy system, because we need you out there, right? Especially if you're somebody that's taking the time to show up on a call like this, like Martin and Atar and Zainab and Irma and Ryan and Andrew. Like, we need you out there. We need more of all of you out there. The world's in need right now. So that's what, let's get that handled today. So I've written a bunch of books. I have so many pieces of paper. I just got another one the other day, right? I have all these glowing reviews, and your question, and you don't care about any of that. You don't care about my credentials or my fancy experience. Because the question you're asking yourself is, can this guy help me? I don't know. Probably, maybe. I've helped a lot of people. So let's find out. Let's find out if I can help you. Let's see. So let's dive in. Let's talk about 4 strategies that you can use to elevate your job search today. And the way this is going to work is we're going to go super fast. So if you don't already have something to write with, definitely Get something to write with. If you're watching the replay, like, make sure you're getting all of this. If you have questions that come up, put it in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay between the time I say stuff and the time it is a pre. This looks like a pre-recorded video from a previous workshop. Rashab, I appreciate that. I can guarantee you this is not pre-recorded, but I'm so smooth. It seems that way. No, this is live, baby. This is live. Otherwise, how could I have replied to your comment? Anyway, no, it's live. And anyhow, put questions into the chat. And just like, I hope I'm not murdering your name, Rashab. Just like he put in a question, I'll be able to respond to it. And if we miss any, we'll get to it at the end. Sound good? Here we go. So this is for the chat. I want everybody to ask this question. What is a good resume about? Put it in the chat, right? Put it in the chat. What's a good resume about? I'm curious if anybody knows. So there's all sorts of resumes, but if we were to describe a good resume, what would it be about? Put it in the chat. Let's see if anybody gets it right. And again, there is a little bit of a delay, so I apologize. This is when I always want to have some Jeopardy music or something. Okay, so Manasa says a good resume is highlighting key skills. Gerald says accomplishments, right? Karen says it's a teaser to get the employer to want to speak with you. Okay, Karen, I can get on board with that. I haven't seen the absolute correct answer yet. Hey, Reynalda, good story. Yep, I like that. Talks about you and your skills, says Kimberly. Hitting key points. Ooh, Katrina, selling yourself. Okay, so I haven't seen the right answer. Destiny's asking, is 3 pages too long? No, it's not too long. Okay, I haven't. Ooh, Joel. I haven't seen the right answer yet. So here's the thing. A lot of you are saying that the resume is about you. A good resume is about you. Some of you have even said a good resume is about selling yourself. And just to be honest, like, selling people is kind of weird. You don't want to do that. We've gone over that historically. And people that want to buy people are even weirder. Not good. So definitely not about selling yourself. Definitely not even about you. A good resume is not about you. And I'm still seeing these answers come in, right? Good resume is not about you, my friends. A good resume is about them. A good resume has nothing to do with you. A good resume is about the person or organization you're sending to. So if you get nothing out of this workshop today other than this, it'll be worth your time. Because it's really natural that we think a good resume is about us, because often the first resume we put together was out of school. And, you know, how many times have we had to do a job search in our lives? Not that many. And in school, it is very much about you. It's your cubby. It's your worksheet. It's your trophy. It's your report card. It's your diploma. And yet when we move to the working world, it's not about us, right? It's about the constituent, the customer, the client, the shareholder. It's not about us, right? The reason Google gives free lunch to the people that work at Google is not because the purpose of Google is to give free lunch to Googlers. The reason they give free lunch to Googlers is to make sure that they make better Google. It's a means to an end. So look, good organizations care about their people, but the reason they exist is something else. Okay, so realize, good resume, not about you, it's about them. Okay, so yeah, and I'm still seeing, yeah, Chris, nope, yeah, it's not about you guys. Sorry. So many job seekers think that an application, a resume, a cover letter, it's about them, and that would be incorrect. I would humbly suggest, right? Employers are focused on themselves. So if you want to be influential with an employer, or frankly, anybody else that has a pulse, that's a human, talk about them. Make the application about them. Make it all about them. Okay. All right. We're on to strategy number 2. Here we go. So if I went into a library and I saw a shelf full of storybooks and I looked at the front cover of those storybooks, I would see some words. What do we call the words on the front cover of a storybook, or any book for that matter? Put it in the chat. What are those words called on the front cover of a book? And I'm looking at some of your answers here. David says, does that mean you have to adjust your resume every time you apply for a position? Excellent question, David. And the answer is, of course you do. Because if a resume is about them and you sent the same resume to more than one person, at least one of them would be misaddressed. That's right. All right, we're getting some correct answers here, right? Title, 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 title. Exactly. The words on the front cover of a book are called a title. Now, isn't it interesting that that's the same term we use to label people in the workplace? Which tells me that a title, just like a title on a storybook is just a label, it's the same thing with our career. And this takes us to strategy number 2, right? title or it's just a label for a story. And so like some of you have very rightly said, I've seen you in the chat, right? You want to tell a lot of stories in your resume. Let me ask you this. And this is again for the chat, what percentage of human decision making do you think is emotional to logical? What's the ratio? Is it 50-50, 70-30, right? What's the ratio of emotion to logic when it comes to human decision making? Let's put it in the chat and see if anybody gets it right. So Joelle says, I've done that and highlighted how my experience can help them achieve their goals and objectives. Joelle, that's fantastic. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to ever get into the business of saying, this is why I'm good for you. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right. So I see 90-10, 80-20. Manasa says 50-50. Kelly says 70-30. David says 25-75, right? 70-30. I haven't seen the right answer yet. Right? It's okay, Joelle. Right? I haven't seen the right answer yet. Okay. Here's the right answer. It's 100% emotional. Human decision-making is 100% emotional. It takes place in our limbic system. Some poor guy in the 1800s gets a railroad spike stuck through their head, right? And it destroys their limbic system. It destroys their capacity for emotion. They're fine, except that they can't make a single decision, and that's the debilitating part. So any of these people that walk around and say, we make data-driven decisions, yeah, that's just bullshit. I'm sorry to say. Human decision-making is 100% emotional. Now, we'll later rationalize it with logic, but the initial decision is emotional. And the reason stories are so important is because stories are how we convey emotion. What was that? Maya Angelou said, people won't remember the facts, but they'll remember how you make them feel. And she's absolutely right, right? It's fine to have numbers and data in your resume, but stories are so much more powerful. Like so much more powerful. You want to make your application and your resume and all of it a story. Yeah, there you go, Michael. I see 100%. That's right. Exactly. Right? Realize that titles are just a story and they're going to vary between industry and organization, geographically, and all of it. So, perfect example. Notice that I'm telling a story, by the way. I was accepting applications for a program, and there was a whole stack of applications. In one of the applications, this woman named Maggie, in her essay, talked about how the summer before she'd been in a terrible car accident and her arm had been severed. I felt so bad. I was like, wow, that's a crazy story. So we accepted her to the program. First day, she walks in. I'm like thinking about ADA stuff and making sure she has accessibility and trying to be accommodating. She walks in, 2 arms. Now, was I mad? No, it was bandaged from where it had been partially severed and reattached, and she was doing physical therapy. She was going to get her arm back, but I was so happy she had both arms. And I remember that story to this day, and that was many, many, many years ago, right? If I was to ask you here, how many of you remember your telephone? I always get in trouble when I ask this question, always in the chat. People say, well, I remember. But for most of you mere mortals, if I was to ask you your phone number when you were 5, you probably couldn't tell me. But if I asked you how you felt on your 5th birthday, you probably could. We remember stories, right? Our logical, we can process about 40 bits of information a second through our logical conscious mind. We can process 20 million a second through our unconscious emotional mind. So it's just orders of magnitude more powerful. Okay, who can tell me who this guy is? Put it in the chat. And everybody's sticking with us, man. We got a good crowd today. Who knows who this guy? What is this guy called? Who knows? Put it in the chat. Let's see how many true believers and active voters we have on this call. Who's this guy? Hey, Zainab, thank you so much. Right? Mariana, thank you. Right. Exactly. This is Napoleon Dynamite. So, yes, thank you, Walt. Pedro's North Dakota. That's right. Right? So for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie Napoleon Dynamite, please, whatever you do today, stop your job search and go watch it, obviously. And I'm not going to ruin it for you, but in this particular scene, Napoleon's a high school kid. And the story is he's sort of put in front of his entire high school student body. He's managed to get his cassette tape up to the sound booth. So he's got the right music, but he's got to do some sort of performance. And he hasn't practiced. He hasn't done anything. The entire student body's watching. So they play the music, and Napoleon just does the craziest damn dance you've ever seen. I mean, he just lets loose. It's crazy. It's wild. And when he's done, he's kind of sweaty, and he's sort of panting, and the entire student body is quiet. And then they erupt in applause. And the reason that works is because it's so authentic. And this brings us to strategy number 3, right? Jamie Kern-Lima, the founder of It Cosmetics, says, everybody's a good dancer if they commit fully. And she's right, right? Strategy number 3, authenticity, right? People are going to hire you because of who you are, not in spite of it. And if you've been doing things like, oh, I got to conceal my age on my graduation dates, or talking about how I'm proficient in Microsoft Office, please stop doing that. Please. Right? There's only one reason they're going to hire you. And it's not your skills. It's not your experience. It's not even that they like you. It's that they trust you. Right? You can have the best skills in the world, but if they don't trust you, nope. You can have no skills whatsoever, and if they trust you, you'll get hired. Right? And the way we build trust is through authenticity and vulnerability. This is what Brené Brown taught us. Right? So many try to be perfect. Please stop doing that. Who do humans hire? Humans hire humans. Now I can just hear I say I'm a mind reader. I can hear the thoughts going off about, what about ATS? What about the algorithm? We're going to get to that, right? And for those of you who've been spending a lot of time trying to convince the algorithm and, game the system, how's that working for you? I already know the answer, right? Because a lot of the clients that come to me have been doing that for a while, right? Humans hire humans, right? Sure, organizations use software to help organize their stuff, but at the end of the day, humans hire humans. At least right now, we have thumbs still, okay? So you want to be authentic. If you don't have evidence in your resume that you're a human, something to look at. You want to be human. You want to be relatable, right? So perfect example. One time I had 2 resumes. They were basically the same. It was about 6 o'clock on a Friday night. I was really wanting to get the heck out of there. 2 resumes. They're virtually the same. Tom says, hey, I play the trumpet. Which one did I pull from the pile? Tom, because at least I knew he played the trumpet. I just needed something, right? Well, at least he's, can carry a beat. We just had a client recently in my program. What did she do on her resume? It was a brilliant thing. I stole it from her too. She said, she put at the end of her resume, she put 2 truths and a lie. And she got an interview. Actually, she got multiple interviews because of that. And the reason we know this is she went in there and they said, hey, the reason we're bringing you in is because you put this 2 truths and a lie thing, and we want to know which is which. Another client I had recently he didn't have this before. He put on there that he ran marathons. Yep, same thing. They brought him in and said, hey, you're a marathon runner. That tells us so much about you. That's why we brought you in for the interview. So if you don't have this stuff on there, my friends, it's something to look at. That's right, Christian. Tot lover. Exactly. Authenticity is your superpower. Okay, final strategy. Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to cut down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And that brings us to the strategy of consistency, right? You want to work smart, not hard, right? If you're somebody that's been sending hundreds and hundreds of applications, like I love you and my heart goes to you, and stop doing that. There's a better way, right? The results you're getting right now are perfectly attuned to your current system. So the opportunity is to get a different system, and whatever system you have, if you're not being consistent with that system, it's no good, right? You want quality first, then turn up the quantity. You want quality and quantity, but start with quality, right? And if what you're doing is not working, you want to iterate. Don't get stuck on the same thing. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over and think you're going to get a different result. That's what Einstein taught us, right? There's no such thing as a failed experiment. And remember, it's not about you. It's about the quality of your systems and the consistency with which you're using those systems. All right. So how do you put all of this to work, right? All these strategies. All right. Well, let's get to it. Ready? 9 tactics. Here we go. We're going to go kind of fast. Buckle up. Write some stuff down. Here we go. 9 tactics. So if you get nothing else from this workshop, I want you to hear this. And if you've been watching the replay and you've been like trimming your bonsai tree or something, I want you to come back to this, okay? Because you get nothing else from this workshop today. This is one of the most important things I want to offer to you. The first thing is make it about them. This is the second thing. And I want you to put this in the chat. Let's say there's a lake, and in the middle of the lake, someone's drowning. And they're surrounded by other people in little boats, okay? So somebody's in the middle of the lake drowning, and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a job search, who's the person drowning? Put it in the chat. Who's the one drowning? So somebody's drowning in the middle of a lake, and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. That was a job search, metaphorically. Who's the person drowning? Put it in the chat. I'm curious to see. Brad says the business, right? Zainab says the recruiter. Kelly says the hiring manager. I got to be honest with you. You guys are getting the correct answer. Good. Right? Karen says it's the candidate. All right. Hiring manager. So look, those of you who are saying it's the employer, that's right, David. You're absolutely right. And yet, I see there, Winifred, right? Yet many job seekers behave like they're the ones drowning, right? They're drowning in bills and the shame and the embarrassment of not having a job, and they're worried what other people will think. Remember, this isn't about you, it's about them, and they're the ones drowning. Right. And the reason we know they're drowning is they've told us. They put out a job description saying, help us. We're drowning in work. Please, someone come help us. You, as the applicant, are the one in the boat. Right. And so the last thing you want to do is roll up to that person and say, and I forget the name. I think it might have been Joelle, but somebody was saying earlier, like, you don't want to roll up to somebody and be like, I'm the best one to rescue you. Because as soon as you say that, like, well, maybe you're just trying to sell me something. Right. We want to leave the space. Right? The energy we want to come with is, hey, you're drowning. And that's terrible. That must be so scary. Let's have a conversation to see if I might be the right one to pull your ass out of the water. I have no idea if I'm the best person. How could I? I don't know you. And I don't know these other people out here. But I've saved about 997 people. So let's have a conversation. And if it's not me, that's fine. Because there's other people to rescue you. And there's other people drowning. I'm good either way. This isn't about me. This is about you. That's the energy we want to come with. And any time we get into the business of saying, I'm the best one to rescue you from the water, or I'm really passionate about rescuing people from the water. No good, my friends. No good. All right. So mindset. You don't want to be in the business of scarcity and being like, I hope they pick me, right? Realize that that's wrong. They're the ones drowning. They'd be lucky to get you. There's like, you need a job, but you don't need that job, right? And there's only one of you. Right? You want to approach from a place of service here. And remember, selling people is weird. Selling yourself is weird. People don't want to be sold, right? They want to be served. They want to be helped. They want to be seen, heard, and understood. Okay, on to the next tactic. Some of you may have seen the show Deadliest Catch, right? And for those of you that haven't, it's a reality TV show where, it's this pitching deck in the Bering Sea. It's often really icy and dangerous. And crab fishermen drop these big steel cages onto the bottom of the ocean floor with a little bit of bait. And crabs come along and they nibble the bait and then they catch the crab. Interesting thing that happens, right? So initially there's bait and the crabs go in, like Bob goes in and Sally goes in and Julie goes in, and all of a sudden pretty soon the crabs, the baits are already taken up. All right. So Charlie the crab is like, oh, there's my buddies. And so Charlie goes in and other crabs go in. And here's what happens. When the bait's gone, if any one of those crabs tries to crawl out, the other crabs will pull them back in, even pulling off a limb, or they'll do a crab murder. crab manslaughter, crab slaughter, I'm not sure, but they'll murder those crabs because crabs instinctively feel safer with other crabs. And yet it's the most dangerous thing ever because they all get pulled up to become dinner. And the same thing happens to us in our job search. And this brings us to the next tactic, your environment. You want to optimize your environment. Specifically, you want to be really, really conscious of, your reference groups, the 5 people that you hang out with most. They don't even have to be alive. These can be people on TV. This can be an author that lived 200 years ago. Like whoever you're hanging out with in your mind, right? Chances are you're going to be the average weight, education, income of all those people. So if you've got people in your life that are dragging you down, you got to get that handled, right? Even if they're our given family, like you got to put up boundaries to make sure that they're not messing up your mojo on this job search, right? People who are like, oh, but you could just settle, right? Just do what's easier. And often it comes from a place of love. They're just trying to keep you safe. It's not that they're trying to be mean. They just don't want you to get hurt. And just like those crabs pulling the other crabs in, right? They're trying to keep those crabs safe. Sometimes it's not helpful, right? Most people don't even consider it, right? Your surroundings, where you do your work, it's really important. You got to be intentional. You got to safeguard it. All right, on to tactic number 3. It's hard to hit a blurry target. I can't tell you the number of times I talk to prospective clients or clients come and work with me and I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're like, I want to help the world. I'm like, that's beautiful. How much do you want to make? I don't know, anywhere between $50,000 and $150,000. I'm like, that's wonderful. And it's super vague and it's a problem because there's this thing called the reticular activating system. It's part of our brains. And basically, Bruce Lee probably said it better. He said, be careful what you say to yourself because your brain is listening. I'm not sure I get that exactly right, but that was the gist of it, right? We will literally find what we tell ourselves to looking for, and we will be blind to the things we don't tell our brains we're looking for. So if we say help the world and our brain can identify that, we won't miss it. If we see anywhere between 50 and 100, our brain will literally miss it. This is like driving off a new car lot and you're like, nobody's got this car. And then all of a sudden you see 5 of those cars. It's because now your brain's looking for it. Same thing with this, right? So you want to have clarity in your job search, clarity around your salary, occupation, goals, right? It's not just nice to have, it's vital. There's a reason NASCAR drivers, when they drive 300 miles in a circle, they don't look at the outer wall. Because when they do, that's where the car will tend to go. And it's the same with this. If we don't have clarity around how we're going to make the world better, how can employers have that clarity? And how will we ever find what we're looking for? All right, here we go. All right. So this is one for the chat. If I went to a store and I bought this thing, what would I be buying? Put it in the chat if you would, s'il vous plaît, right? If I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, I think Ryobi, you have to buy at Home Depot. So I went to Home Depot or wherever and I bought this. What would I be buying? Please put it in the chat. All right. So Mariana says a drill bit. Karen says cordless drill. Oh, Brad, right? I see cordless drill, a tool. So Brad's the closest, right? So look, folks, I actually don't need one of these sitting around my garage. As beautiful as it is, this isn't helping me to sit around my garage. I don't need this. What I actually need is a hole. What I'm buying is a hole. I don't need the drill. What I need the hole. And I don't need a bunch of holy walls. What I need is a place to put the hook. And now that I think about it, I actually don't even need a hook to like gash my arm open as I walk by. I need a place to hang the photo. And a photo is great, but that's not really what I want. What I really want is the feeling I get when I look at the photo of my beautiful, smart family that's hanging on the hook, that's in the hole that was made by the drill. And this brings us to giving safety to employers. Most candidates are out there just talking about themselves, trying to sell themselves, talking about their skills, their experience. That's a disaster, as some of you are experiencing firsthand. So stop doing that. And when we move to making it about them, we don't want to talk about the drill. We want to talk about what keeps them up at night when they're laying in bed asleep. If we can get to that black swan, it's game over. You don't have to worry about the ATS and your competitors and the market and your age and the gap. You don't have to worry about any of that. If you can get to the thing that keeps them up at night and make them feel seen, heard, and understood, game over, right? You want to get really clear what they like, want, and need. What keeps them up at night? How can you make them feel seen, heard, and understood? And if some of you are saying, well, how do you do that, Eric? Yeah, you sign up for my program, right? But you can do it just on your own, right? Anyhow. Okay, so this here, tactic number 5. This is a copy of my resume. Now, look, I'll just be real honest with you. Resumes are stupid. And anybody that says there's one right way to do a resume is full of it. There's not, right? Resume is definitely more of an art than a science. And a good resume is about who? Say it together. It's about them. A good resume does what? It makes them feel seen, heard, and understood, right? A good resume comes from a place of service, not selling or scarcity, right? And so this is, and the paper matters, whether it's your resume, your cover letter, all that kind of stuff, it matters. So you want to get the paper right just so you can get through that hoop, right? And so many people, they're like, well, I follow best practices with my resume. Stop doing that. It's like professional camouflage. You don't want your resume to look anything like everybody else, right? You want them to look at your resume and be like, resume is different. And you can say, thank you for noticing. Yeah, I'm different. I'm not like the rest. Do you need help? Are you drowning? Right? Like that. Okay. Remember, it's just a communication piece. You want to communicate with potential employers in ways they cannot ignore, right? For instance, look at my resume. I got hyperlinks. You guys got hyperlinks in your resume? That's some hyperlinks. Now, it's possible no one will ever click them, but it shows that you know how to think 4-dimensionally. You know how to use the Google and the interweb, right? And by the way, people will remember what you show them much more than what you tell them. So those of you who have that big block of text at the top of your resume, my executive summary, where I'm talking about me, yeah, get rid of that. Because those of you who have hired people know that the first thing you're going to look at on a resume is, where are they now? Where are they most recently? That's where your resume begins. Make sure it has context. It says where and when it was. Start from there. And you're going to make your resume about, guess who? About them. Okay, my friends, on to the next tactic. If a job application submitted, but there's no follow-up, does it even make a sound? I would humbly suggest that it doesn't. Now, look, folks, I'm not talking about they call you in for the interview and you follow up. I'm talking about you hit apply, you wait 4 or 5 days, and then you follow up. And your follow-up is not, hey, just wanted to check in, just wondering what the timeline is, because that's all about you. When you follow up, you want to make it about them, because and those of you who are like, but Eric, I do follow up. Go back and look at your follow-ups. Count the number of I's and me's in the message. You're going to find some. Count the number of times you wrote you. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. Okay. And some of you may say, but it's too pushy to follow up. Let me tell you a story. So some of you may be familiar with Darren Hardy. He's the former publisher of Success Magazine. He looks exactly like what you think, redheaded white guy in a shiny suit, right out of Central Casting. And Darren tells a cool story. When he was early in his career, he was a realtor. And some of you who are familiar with realty may know that when a house has a contract with a selling agent and it expires, it goes on the MLS, and basically every agent within a 30-mile radius descends on the house and be like, I'll sell your house. I'll sell your house. So here's what Darren would do. And they would usually show up or call midday. When that happened, Darren would show up at their house, full suit, clipboard, knocking on the door about 5:30 a.m. and say, good morning. My name's Darren. I'm going to sell your house. And they were like, who the hell? And if they didn't sign up then, he would send them like a massive gift basket around 10. And if that didn't work, around 1 o'clock, an associate would show up and hand him a sold sign and said, hey, you're going to need this when Darren sells your house. And what Darren says is he lost about 1 out of 5 for being too aggressive, and he got the other 4. Remember, people are going to believe what you show them, not what you tell them. And if there's somebody drowning and they're face down in the water, and you said, hey, buddy, are you okay? And they don't move, you're not going to be like, oh, I don't want to be pushy. They might be drowning, but I don't want to be too much. Hell no. You're going to jump out of the boat, flip them over, do mouth to mouth. And if they wake up and say, lady, I'm just snorkeling, you'd be like, my bad. I was more committed to saving your life than trying to look good. This is the mindset that's going to serve you, right? Initiative is rewarded. Show them, don't tell them. All right. Let's get on to the next tactic, right? And this is networking. A lot of times people think asking for help is needy or creepy. It's wrong. Asking for help is a great strength. How many of you have seen the Academy Awards and they get up there and they receive a big award and they're like, I got nobody to thank. Yeah, we got extra time. There's nobody to thank. We'll just all sit here in silence. It doesn't happen, right? They're like, I got to thank this person, that. They start playing the music. This person, they got like the cane that pulls them off. Right? People who achieve great things don't do it alone. They ask for help. And by the way, asking for help is a gift. Those of you on this call or watching the recording, have you ever helped somebody? Of course you have. How'd it make you feel? I already know the answer. And by you not asking your network for help, you're robbing them of that opportunity. Stop being so stingy. Manasa says, how do you build a network if you're fresh from another country and have nobody in your field? Manasa, like, look at all the people on this call. Right? There's people, and again, I'm not saying it's easier said than done, and especially if you're in a new community, in a new place, there's people everywhere. There's 8 billion people in the world, and they tend to want to help other people because it feels good. So the opportunity is build that network, and in the meantime, ask people for help. All these people who you apply for jobs to, and these recruiters say, oh, I'll get back to you. See, that's fantastic. In the meantime, would you be willing to help me with my job search? Sure. What's your email address? Like that. Okay. So remember, asking for help makes you strong, not weak. Vulnerability builds trust. And that's the one reason they're going to hire you. Right. And we don't want to, and some of you are like, well, I ask for help. I send one-off emails. That's like fishing in the ocean with a single line, trying to get the right bait at the right depth at the right time to get the right fish. We don't want to do that. We want to filter the ocean, and we want to do it in a systematic way. If I asked all of you how many of your Google contacts know you're looking for a job right now, what percentage would it be? 100, 80, 90? or much, much less. And if I asked how many of you of your contacts know what was going on with your job search as of last week, just saying, okay? So I can't remember. We're on to tactic number 8. 2 more, guys. You're hanging with us. You guys are doing a great. And I'm about to give you the best interview advice you'll ever hear. You ready? Here it goes. Don't answer their questions. If you've been going into interviews trying to answer their questions, please stop doing that because they don't care. Those of you who have given interviews know that really you call somebody into an interview not to get information, it's to get a sense of them. You're basically gauging whether you can trust them, right? And there's nothing organic about it. We put random people in a room and have some of the people judge the other person. Interviews are weird, right? So the opportunity is to go into an interview, not being nervous, to know that they're the ones drowning. They're the ones drowning, and to give answers that give them safety, to tell stories that help them feel like they can trust you. That's how you interview. Interviews are not about performance. Interviews are about connecting. And those of you who've been going to interviews trying to perform and you've been having trouble, I love you, and this is the reason. All right? Interviews are about connecting with other humans, because remember, who do humans hire? Let's all say it together. Humans. Okay? Don't answer the questions because they don't care. They're just trying to judge. They're just trying to evaluate you. Okay, let's talk about offers. I got a whole bunch of clients right now. Just this week, they got offers. I'm super excited about it. And I can't talk about it because I have client confidentiality, and it's amazing. Here's the thing about offers. A lot of people worry. Like sometimes I'll run into people and they'll say, well, Eric, you got to understand, I'm really picky about where I apply. And I'm like, that's really fascinating. Why? Well, if I get the job, then I got to move the family to Connecticut and next thing. And realize, my friends, like in a job search, there's 2 things you don't have to worry about. One, if you're qualified for a job, they'll have an opinion, right? And 2, you don't really even have to worry if you want the job, because unless and until they make you an offer, it's sort of like negotiating with yourself. Now, look, if there's some organization out there, like, you don't want to work for the Let's All Go Club Baby Seals as they come out of the ice association, I get it. It's not worth your time and energy. Cool. But if it's something that's within the realm, apply. Make it about them. Apply from a place of service. Volume, quality. What do you have to lose? And no more quick apply, folks, right? No more quick apply, because those jobs might not even, those are like, it's how coming up on Halloween. Those jobs are like ghost jobs. They might not even exist, right? We want to find real people, right? Who are really in need of maybe a service that we could provide. Okay. So you want to apply liberally from a place of service. So you want to write this down, folks. I'm going to leave this slide up for a little bit, right? These are the 4 strategies, and these are 9 tactics that you can follow to get your job search. And you guys are going to get the replay of this too. Okay. So Laura Land says, how do you build vulnerability but not look weak at the same time? Laura, I love this question. And here's the thing. There's a thought error here. The assumption here in this question is that being vulnerable makes somebody look weak. It doesn't. It makes them look strong. Every piece of research ever says this. There's even hostage negotiators will use this. They do a thing called an accusation audit, right? Notice what I did at the beginning of this presentation. I did it without even thinking about it. Remember how I said the thing about I'm just going to be selling? And then it turned out I was being sarcastic, because a lot of you were getting on this call thinking, well, he's just going to sell us stuff, right? And I got vulnerable. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to sell you stuff on this call. And it hopefully increased trust because I was being honest, right? I was being honest. So anyhow, that's how this works. Okay, folks. So I'm not going to sell anything. And some of you are on this call and you're like, this is amazing. I can put this to work. This is very different from what I've heard. I'm going to put this to work on my own. And that's fantastic. And I will tell you, I can't tell you how many people I hear from who watched this workshop 6 months ago who are like, Eric, I tried to do this on my own. And I'm like, well, show me what you're doing. And their follow-up is all about them. And their cover letters are all about them. And their resume is all about them. I'm like, I love you, man. And you're not doing it. And then they sign up and they get traction, right? Or at least they do a call with me. So here's the invitation I want to make to you. If you're serious about your job search and you are tired, you don't want to keep doing this on your own, let's schedule a call, right? And I've got some time this week and next, not a ton, but let's schedule a call and let's get this job thing handled. No strings attached. Although I will say, like, we get on this call and I think this program can help you, I'm going to take a stand for that. And if you tell me you're not, like, that's fine. And if I don't think my program will help you, like, that's okay too. Then that's cool. But you don't have to keep doing this on your own. You really, really don't. So let's schedule a time to talk. And I don't have a ton of time, so please don't schedule time and then don't show up. Like, it just takes the slot away from other people. But if you're somebody who's serious about your job search and you want some help, you want to talk to somebody that's gotten this handled for quite a few people over the last 4 or 5 years, schedule time to talk. Yeah, I can put the link in the chat. It's right here, Kelly. I just put it in there. Hopefully you see it. And you're going to get an email about this too. Okay. So happy to have you all here. So let's take some questions. I am going to give you a full version of my gigantic head, which could be kind of scary. I know there were a ton of questions here. So let's dive in. And actually, some of them were actually submitted to me. So let's go to those first. So let's see here. Chris asked, and these were sent in ahead of time, how can one manage their time most effectively during a job search? I spend a fair amount of time updating custom-made resumes for new job postings that seem to gobble up a good deal of my time. That's a great question, Chris. And what you want to do is come up with a system. So one of the things when I work with clients we do is we create a mothership of all resumes, right? The primordial ooze of resumes. It's a resume that will be sent to no one. And every time we want to make it about the employer, we do a really quick 5-minute process, get clear about what the employer wants. We make sure those concepts and ideas are in that resume. We save that sucker. Same thing with a cover letter, and we hit send, right? Applications need not take hours at a time, right? You can do a really great application that's about them quickly because you want to spend a lot of your time doing follow-up and networking because chances are that's where you're going to get your next gig. Okay. Guru asks, I'm perplexed with technical interviews, right? How do you manage technical interviews? All right. And hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Guru. So a lot of times with technical interviews, what can happen, and this can actually happen with anybody who's a subject matter expert, is they want to give the whole kitchen sink right off the bat, right? Like right off the bat, they want to give the whole kitchen sink. And so the opportunity there is to say, hey, it's really clear your company, your organization cares about X, Y, and Z. And what you're doing in X matters, what you're doing in Y affects so many people, and the opportunities you guys have around Z stands out so much. Notice who I'm talking about here, by the way. It's not me. Once I make them feel seen, heard, and understood, then I pivot. I go to myself and I say, so look, I'm the world's expert at X, Y, and Z. I've done it in a million places. What would you like to know first? So basically, I'm giving them the option for them to double click on the thing they want me to talk about. Oh, X? Yeah, there's 3 important parts to X. Clear that you're doing these 3 parts. Again, I'm talking about them. And those 3 important parts are A, B, and C. What would you like to know about next? And then if they see C, fine. But if not, you're not giving them the whole kitchen sink. You're basically giving them the opportunity to choose. And guess what? This is another way to give them safety, right? Because you're not just presuming what they want to hear. You're giving them ownership in it. All right, Irma, I saw you on here, Irma. I know you're here live. What words in resumes are gold to a recruiter? So here's my honest answer. I have no flipping idea. And I know a lot of recruiters. Recruiters aren't bad people. And they sort of have a conflict of interest because they're not working for you. They're working for an employer. And they get paid for when they meet their quota. So recruiters are fine. And my encouragement for you is circumvent all that stuff. Recruiters, ATS systems. I mean, it's fine. You have to jump through those hoops. But if you can find the live hiring manager that's drowning, that's dying in work, that's frustrated at all those systems just as you are because they need help, and they can knock on the back door and say, hey, HR, this one right here, Irma, I want to talk with Irma, right? All of a sudden you'll get it. And by the way, those automated no's you get, they're like, you apply and then 30 minutes later, we're sorry, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just ignore those. Really, truly. Just pretend they went in your spam and you never saw them, and find a live human. This is what my clients do to great effect, right? Because there's just so much there. All right. We have some questions here. I saw it. Lots of questions. Reynalda says, where do I find your unstuck video? I don't know. I have a lot of videos. Reynalda, if you email me, I'm going to put my email here about what you're talking about. I will be happy to share that video. I've done a lot of videos. There's my woodardweb.com. unstuckvideo@gmail.com. So if you email that, we'll try and find that unstuck video for you. Okay, so let's see some other questions here. And I really appreciate you guys all staying with me. And again, if you haven't signed up for a call yet and you're wanting some help and you're serious about your job search and you're going to show up for the call, book it right there. All right, here we go. Let's see. I know there was a ton of questions here. Would emojis, so this is Joanne, would emojis be acceptable on a resume? So 3 important things about a resume, Joanne. 1, it's about them. 2, it tells stories. And 3, it's authentic. Does putting emojis on a resume feel authentic to you? If so, put it on there. I'm a fan. That would be really authentic to me to put emojis. I actually have logos from the organizations I've worked at on my resume, right? It's sort of like the kitchen sink. So I'm a big fan as long as it's authentic to you, right? As long as it's authentic to you. Because the opportunity there, Joanne, is, if everybody else is proficient in Microsoft Office and you're on there showing some personality, it could be they want to work with you, okay? Yeah, they're a great quote from Simon Sinek. Building trust is more about asking for help. That's exactly right. I couldn't agree more. It's about asking for help. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great quote. I'm looking, let's see if we've got any other questions. You're so welcome. So look, my friends, I just want to really honor you for being on this call. It's just a sign that, you take your job seriously, and, not everybody spends the time. And I also just want to encourage you, like, you're going to figure this out. Okay. I got a couple of questions here. Let's see here. I saw a couple. So Brandy says, do I have to write a cover letter? So here's the thing, Brandy, you don't have to do anything. In life, you actually don't have to do anything. You have the power to do anything. You can want to do anything. And you may want to write a cover letter because of all your competitors don't and you do. Again, it's a demonstration, Brandy, that you're not messing around. And remember, your cover letter, again, count those of you who've written cover letters, count the number of I's and me's. Now count the number of you's. Compare the numbers. I actually tried to write a cover letter one time without using the word I couldn't do it. English doesn't work that good. And you can get a lot more U's in there than I's. And when you do, it makes you stand out. Let's see. You're so welcome, Rashab. You're so welcome. You're fine, Rashab. Don't even worry, bro. You're fine. You're fine. Okay, Manasa says, how do you construct a resume to convey a story when many job postings require a set amount of expectations, skills, and knowledge? Well, first of all, we don't want to be doing expectations. Expectations are no bueno. Anytime. No shoulds, no obligations. Yeah, just eliminate the word expectation from your vocabulary. You can have agreements instead, right? And look, what they think about you, what the employer thinks about you is none of your business. Okay. So this is the sort of thing I dream about. Going in an interview in a full suit, and it's a nice suit, and they say, Eric, are you ready for the interview? And I look at them, I say, no, I'm not. I need to do something first. They're like, what? I'm like, hold on. There's a glass of water there. And I take the water and I pour it over my head. And I say, okay, I'm ready now. And they're like, what the hell did you just do? I say, oh, I'm sorry. Let me explain. I poured the water over my head as a reminder that I'm not here to please you. I'm not, you can count on me that I'm not going to be here to please you today. I'm here to serve you. Right? So to answer your question, about Manasa, ask your question, right? Put stuff on the resume that's going to serve them, even if they don't know it, right? This isn't about sort of walking on eggshells to please anybody. That's how, and make the story about them. You bet it. That's exactly right. Okay. So Laura says, what can we use as part of our vocabulary instead of expectations? This is a whole other subject, but agreements. Right? When somebody comes up to you and says, well, Laura Land, great name, by the way, Laura Land, I expect that you'll do this. You can say, I've actually taught my 13-year-old daughter this, right? Hey, just so you know, I don't do those. I don't do expectations. We can co-create an agreement because the expectations are just, I made up some stuff and they made up some stuff. And I hope the stuff we made up jives. They're not useful. They cause a lot of problems. I'm stealing this from the great Steve Chandler, by the way, right? Like, so the opportunity is to replace expectations with agreements. So you're on a call and the recruiter says, oh, I'll get back to you. You say, you know what? That's beautiful. I really hear you'll get back to me. Can I ask you a question? Sure. What do you mean? What do you mean you're going to get back to me? Oh, well, next week I'll get back to you. That's fantastic. Can I ask you about this? Sure. Which day? How will you get back to me? What time? How do we handle it, Bob, the recruiter, if you're not back to me by a certain time? Bob may get upset. Bob may say, well, the other candidates don't do this. You say, Bob, thank you for noticing. I'm not like your other candidates. And I'm not here to please you. I'm here to serve you. That's what we're after. And again, I do this enough. It could come off as cocky, and I offer it to you from a place of service, folks, because so many of us in a job search, we're like walking on eggshells, and, and it comes from a place where, we got bills and other things, and it can be scary. And we got people that we know putting pressure on us. You want to get hired fast, come from a place of service. What they think of you is none of your business. All right. And I know we're almost out of time. So look, I'm going to put this link in one more time from a place of service. Guys, if you watch this workshop and you don't want to talk to me, like, I love you. I hope it serves. And if you watch this workshop and you're like, I woke up this morning hoping something would be different, because every morning I've been waking up hoping something would be different, and I've been waiting and 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 waiting. What if this is the thing that's different? Right? Because you can go into a gym and work out and you'll get muscles eventually, or you can work out with a trainer and you're going to get bigger muscles faster, right? It's the opportunity for people who value time more than money. And then I would ask you, how much is it costing you to be out of work right now? Right? If you want to make 120 grand, that's 10 a month, 2,500 a week, 500 a day, right? So my program gets you hired a week or so faster. It's a wash. And my program gets people hired a lot faster than that. And I don't know what's best for you. Okay. You're so welcome, Joanne. I did feel like you got the authentic me. Well, that's a surprise, because I'm about to do a Scooby-Doo. No, it's the authentic me, right? Authentic me. Peter says, I don't think water pouring over my head before the interview is not a good idea. Peter, you're right. Don't do it before the interview. Do it during the interview. And I hear you, man. I'm not sure I would actually do that either. It's just to make a point, somewhat dramatically. Okay, so Christy's going to be our last question. How often does the recruiter who selects candidates and the hiring manager who decides who to hire work with the actual agree on the type? They don't, Christy. You're absolutely right. How many times have you talked to the? Now I'm going to rag on young people here for a second. How many of you have talked to like a 20-something recruiter who knows nothing about the subject matter? It happens all the time. So all the more reason, find the hiring manager. You're right. Recruiters are just, they're doing their best. You are so welcome, my friends. You're so welcome. I just want to acknowledge you and offer you, look, folks, those of you who have especially been on the job hunt for quite a while, you're going to figure this out. And if you're looking for help, schedule time to talk to me, because we can absolutely get this job stuff handled. And I just wish you all the light, all the best. Keep up the good work. You can do it, and hope to cross paths with you. Take care, my friends.